I'm 48, and I'd been a bodyguard for 20 years, but I'm done pretending it was all honor and grit. Here's what happened. I trusted the wrong people, and it cost me everything. My name's Jack Ramsey, ex-Army, built like a tank but fraying at the edges. I worked for Apex Security, a slick outfit that guarded COs, diplomats, and guys like Victor, a client with eyes like a snake and a smile that made my gut twist. I ignored that twist for too long. Looking back, I see the red flags, late-night calls, vague orders, cash changing hands in dark alleys. But I was loyal, you know? Apex was my family after the Army. They gave me purpose, a paycheck, and a team I'd die for. Until I realized they wouldn't die for me. It started unraveling last year on a job in Chicago. Victor, some Eastern European money guy, needed protection for a business meeting. Me and Mike Torres, my buddy, 30, all heart and no filter, were on point. Mike was the kind of guy who'd take a bullet for you but joke about it after. We stood outside a warehouse, freezing our asses off, while Victor's meeting dragged on. I heard shouting inside, then silence. Mike nudged me, said, "This feels off, Jack." I shrugged it off. I'd done 100 jobs like this. But when Victor came out, his suit was pristine, but his knuckles were bloody. I didn't ask questions. That was my first mistake. Apex trained us to keep our heads down. Protect the client, not your conscience, Claire Hensley, our boss, always said. Claire's in her 50s, sharp as a blade, with a smile that could sell you a lie. I bought her lies for years. She'd call me her rock. Said I was the best because I never flinched. But that night I flinched. Mike didn't make it home. He was found in an alley, stabbed, wallet gone, like some random mugging. I knew it wasn't random. I saw the way Claire dodged my questions, how the agency closed ranks. They said it was a tragedy, but I felt it in my bones. Mike died because of Apex. I'm not proud of what I did next. I kept working. Bills don't stop, and I've got no one else. My sister, Elena, hasn't spoken to me in years, not since I chose this job over family. I told myself Mike's death was a one-off, that I could keep going, keep protecting. But every job after felt wrong. Victor's smug grin, Claire's cold orders, it was all rotting from the inside. I started seeing things I couldn't unsee, guards sent on jobs with bad intel, clients who weren't just rich but dirty. I was part of it, and that shame eats me alive. I didn't expect this life to break me, but it did. I'm writing this because I need to get it out, to admit I was blind. I trusted Apex, trusted Claire, and now I'm scared, scared I'll pay for what I know, scared I'll never sleep without checking my locks twice. Looking back, I think I was happiest in the early days at Apex, when I still believed in the mission. I was 28, fresh out of the Army, my body still humming from years of discipline, my head full of ideas about duty. Apex felt like a brotherhood. We weren't just hired muscle, we were protectors, or so I thought. I'd show up at the office in DC, a sleek building with glass walls and a logo that screamed money. Claire would brief us, her voice calm, like she was reading a bedtime story, not sending us into chaos. My first client was a senator's wife, nervous about death threats. I stood by her side at fundraisers, scanning crowds, my heart steady. She'd slip me a coffee, say, "Thanks, Jack, you're a lifesaver." I ate that up. It felt good to be needed. Those early years I built a rhythm. Wake at 5 a.m., hit the gym, check my gear, Glock, earpiece, backup knife. I'd meet guys like Mike, who joined later, all eager and green. We'd swap stories over beers after shifts, laughing about clients who'd forget our names or panic over nothing. Mike was my favorite. He'd mimic Claire's clipped tone. "Ramsey, don't think, just do." We'd crack up, but I took her words to heart. Don't think. Just protect. I thought that was strength. I thought I had control. I'd drive home to my one-bedroom, eat takeout, call Elena now and then. She'd nag me to visit, but I'd say, "Work's crazy." Truth was, I loved the job too much to leave it. Even for her. But there were cracks, even then. Some jobs felt off, clients who'd vanish into meetings with no explanation, briefings that left out key details, like who we were really guarding against. Once, in Miami, I escorted a tech CEO who kept a duffel bag of cash in his hotel room. I asked Claire about it. She laughed, said, "Jack, you're not paid to play detective." I nodded, ignored the pit in my stomach. That's how it worked. You followed orders, kept your mouth shut. Apex paid well, six figures by my 30s, and I had a purpose. I wasn't just a grunt, I was saving lives. Or so I told myself. Mike's death ripped that lie apart, but back then, I didn't see it. I remember one night, maybe 5 years in, standing outside a club in New York. The client, some music exec, was inside, probably coked out. I was with another guard, a vet named Ray. He lit a cigarette, said, "This job's a machine, Jack. Don't get caught in the gears." I laughed it off, thought he was jaded. Now I know he was right. The machine was Apex, and it was already grinding me down. I didn't see the lies, the corners they cut, the way they'd throw us into jobs blind. I was too busy feeling like a hero. God, I was naive. I keep thinking about those early days, how I could have walked away before it got bad. But I stayed. I stayed because I thought I was in control. I wasn't. I was just a cog, and I didn't even know it. Here's what broke me: the night Mike died. I keep replaying it, like a bad movie stuck on loop. It was 6 months before that Chicago job with Victor, the one where I ignored my gut. We were in Atlanta, guarding a real estate mogul, some guy named Hargrove, who reeked of cologne and arrogance. Mike and I were posted outside his hotel suite, a ritzy place with chandeliers and too many mirrors. Hargrove was inside, yelling into his phone about some deal gone south. Mike was restless, pacing, his earpiece crackling with static. "This guy's trouble, Jack," he whispered. I heard him mention cleanup on the phone. "That's not real estate talk." I told him to chill, that clients always sound shady. I was wrong. Around 2 a.m., Claire radioed us to escort Hargrove to a private airstrip. No explanation, just move fast. We piled into a black SUV, Hargrove in the back, sweating despite the AC. Mike drove, I rode shotgun, scanning the dark streets. The airstrip was 20 minutes out, a desolate spot with a single hangar. Hargrove bolted from the car, clutching a briefcase, and met two guys in suits. They didn't look like pilots. Mike muttered, "This is bad, man." Before I could respond, headlights flashed behind us. Another SUV screeched up, and 3 guys with masks jumped out, guns drawn. I yelled for Mike to stay low, but he was already out of the car, trying to cover Hargrove. It happened so fast. Gunshots popped, sharp and loud, like firecrackers. I ducked behind the SUV, my Glock out, firing back. Hargrove's men scattered, but Mike took a hit in the chest. I saw him drop, his eyes wide, blood pooling under him. I dragged him behind cover, screaming his name, but he was gone. The attackers vanished as fast as they came. Hargrove was fine, whisked away by his guys. I was left with Mike's body, my hands shaking, his blood on my sleeves. I called Claire, my voice cracking. She said, "Stay calm, Jack. Police will handle it." But when the cops came, they called it a robbery gone wrong. A robbery. At a private airstrip at 2 a.m. I knew it was bullshit. Back at Apex, I pushed Claire for answers. Why no backup? Why bad intel? She leaned back in her office chair, cool as ever, and said, "Jack, you're emotional. It was a freak incident. Don't make it personal." But it was personal. Mike was my friend, my responsibility. I trained him, vouched for him. I should have listened when he said something was off. Instead, I followed orders, and now he's dead. The guilt is like a knife in my ribs, twisting every time I close my eyes. I see his face, hear his voice. I failed him. And the worst part? I stayed with Apex after, like a coward, because I didn't know how to walk away. I didn't know how to face what I'd let happen. I kept telling myself Mike's death was a fluke, that I could bury it and move on. I was lying to myself, and I knew it, but admitting the truth felt like admitting I'd failed him twice. After Atlanta, I went back to work like nothing happened. Claire clapped me on the shoulder, said, "You're tougher than this, Jack. Keep your head in the game." Her words stung, like she was daring me to crack. I didn't. I took another job, then another, escorting clients through cities I barely saw, my eyes scanning for threats, my heart numb. I'd stand outside boardrooms, warehouses, penthouses, my Glock heavy on my hip, wondering if the next job would end like Mike's. But I didn't quit. I couldn't. My rent, my car, my whole life was tied to Apex. Without it, who was I? Claire sent me to Dallas a month later, guarding Victor again. That same snake-eyed bastard from Chicago. He was all charm, offering me a cigar, saying, "Jack, you're a pro. I feel safe with you. I nodded, kept my face blank, but his voice made my skin crawl. The job was simple: watch him at a charity gala. I stood by the ballroom doors, watching rich folks sip champagne while Victor worked the room. Then I saw it, a guy in a waiter's uniform, lingering too long near Victor, his hand twitching toward his jacket. I moved fast, grabbed his arm, found a knife. Security hauled him away, and Victor just smirked, like it was all a game. Later, Claire called me to her office. I thought she'd praise me. Instead, she leaned forward, eyes cold, and said, "You didn't see anything tonight, Jack. That waiter was drunk, got it?" I stared at her, my stomach sinking. Drunk waiters don't carry switchblades. I tried to push back. "Claire, that guy was no waiter. What's Victor into?" She cut me off, her voice like ice. "You're not a cop, Jack. You're a shield. Do your job." I left her office, my head spinning. Was she covering for Victor? For Apex? I started replaying every job in my head: Mike's death, the bad intel, the cash bags, the rushed orders. It wasn't just one bad night. It was a pattern. But every time I tried to talk to other guards, they shut me down. "Don't stir shit up." One guy, Pete, hissed at me. "You wanna end up like Mike?" His words hit like a punch. Was that a threat? Or just fear? I couldn't tell. All I knew was the agency was closing ranks, and I was on the outside, looking in. The shame was the worst part. I'd let Mike down, and now I was letting myself down, swallowing Claire's lies because I was too scared to lose everything. I'd lie awake at night, checking my phone for texts from Elena, hoping she'd reach out. She didn't. I was alone, carrying this guilt, this doubt, like a weight I couldn't drop. I wanted to believe Apex was still my family, that I could fix this. But deep down, I knew I was fooling myself, and that truth was starting to choke me. The red flags kept piling up, and I couldn't unsee them anymore. After Dallas, I started noticing things I'd ignored for years. Jobs with half-assed briefings, clients like Victor who'd slip into side rooms with shady types, Apex's insistence on no questions. I was 48, too old to play dumb, but too deep in to just walk away. I'd lie awake, replaying Mike's death, that waiter's knife, Claire's cold eyes. It was like waking up in a house you thought was solid, only to see cracks in every wall. I started keeping notes, dates, names, details of jobs that felt wrong. I hid them in a locked drawer, like some paranoid cop. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I had to be. One night in LA, it got worse. I was on a detail for a new client, a hedge fund guy named Kessler. He was twitchy, kept glancing at his phone like it might explode. We were at his beach house, me and another guard, a quiet guy named Sam. Around midnight, a car pulled up, no plates. Two men got out, one with a scar across his cheek. Kessler let them in, no hesitation. I heard raised voices through the door, words like debt and clean up. Sam whispered. "This ain't our business, Jack." But it was. I'd heard clean up before, from Hargrove, the night Mike died. I stood there, my hand on my Glock, heart pounding, knowing I should do something but frozen. The men left after 20 minutes, and Kessler acted like nothing happened, offering me a beer. I declined. Back at the hotel, I called Claire, my voice low so Sam wouldn't hear. "What's Kessler into?" "Those guys weren't friends." She sighed like I was a kid asking dumb questions. "Jack, you're overthinking. Focus on the job." But I couldn't. The next day, I saw Kessler hand Sam an envelope, thick with cash. Sam pocketed it, avoided my eyes. That's when it hit me: Apex wasn't just sloppy, they were dirty. Guards were being bought, or worse, silenced. I thought of Mike, how he'd questioned Hargrove's deal. Had he seen too much? Was that why he was dead? I started digging discreetly. I'd linger after briefings, overhear Claire on calls about containment and loose ends. I checked my notes against job logs, noticed gaps, missions not recorded, payments off the books. The stakes were climbing. If Apex was covering for clients like Victor and Kessler, what else were they hiding? Were they setting us up to take falls? I felt like I was standing on a trapdoor, waiting for it to drop. I wanted to talk to Elena, to tell her I was in over my head, but I couldn't drag her into this. I was alone, and the more I saw, the more I realized I couldn't stay quiet much longer. But speaking up meant risking everything: my job, my safety, maybe my life. I wasn't ready to pull that trigger, but the weight of what I knew was crushing me, and I knew it wouldn't stop. I hit my breaking point in Miami, 7 months after Mike's death. I couldn't keep pretending Apex was just a job gone wrong. It was a snake pit, and I was in too deep. I was 48, staring down a life I didn't recognize, guarding people I didn't trust for an agency I hated. The job was with Victor again, that slick bastard with his bloodied knuckles and fake smiles. We were at a yacht party, all glitz and champagne, but the air felt heavy, like a storm was coming. I stood on the deck, scanning the crowd, my notes burning a hole in my pocket. I'd added more since LA, names, dates, overheard snatches of deals, and drops. I knew too much, and it was eating me alive. Victor was schmoozing with a group of suits, but he kept glancing at a guy in a black cap, standing alone by the railing. Something about the guy screamed trouble, too still, too watchful. I edged closer, my hand near my Glock, when Victor caught my eye and nodded, like he was giving me a signal. Before I could process it, black cap guy moved, fast, pulling a blade and lunging at another guest, a woman in a red dress. I tackled him, pinned him to the deck, the knife clattering away. The crowd screamed, scattering. Victor just stood there, sipping his drink, like it was a show. I zip-tied the guy, handed him to yacht security, but my gut screamed this wasn't random. Later, in a back room, Claire was there, flew in from DC, which was weird. She pulled me aside, her face all business. "Good work, Jack, but keep it quiet." "No police," I snapped. "No police? That guy tried to kill someone." She grabbed my arm, her grip like iron. "You don't get it, do you? This stays in-house. You talk, you're done." Her eyes weren't just cold, they were scared. That's when it clicked. Apex wasn't just covering for clients, they were in on it. Whatever Victor was into, drugs, trafficking, worse, they were facilitating it. And Mike? He'd been a loose end, like I was becoming. I left the yacht shaking, my head a mess. I couldn't do this anymore. I drove to a diner, sat in a booth, and pulled out my notes. Pages of scribbled proof, Victor's meetings, Kessler's cash, Claire's lies. I knew what I had to do, confront her, force the truth out, or I'd end up like Mike. But the thought made my chest tight. Apex was my life, my only family since Elena stopped talking to me. If I burned it down, what was left? I stared at my coffee, cold now, and realized I didn't have a choice. I'd seen too much, felt too much. The guilt, the fear, it was a tide pulling me under. I had to act, even if it meant losing everything. I stuffed the notes back in my pocket, paid the tab, and drove to Apex's local office, my heart hammering. I was done being their pawn, but I wasn't ready for what came next. I walked into Apex's Miami office at 3 a.m., my notes crumpled in my fist. My heart pounding like a drum. The place was a skeleton crew, dim lights, a bored receptionist, and the hum of AC. I demanded to see Claire. She was there, like she'd been waiting. Her office smelled of coffee and leather, but her face was stone. I threw my notes on her desk, pages of scribbled proof, Victor's deals, Kessler's cash, Mike's death. "Explain this," I said, my voice shaking. "Mike died because of your bullshit jobs. I'm done covering for you." She didn't flinch, just leaned back, her eyes narrowing. "You're out of line, Jack. You think you're a hero? You're nothing without Apex." Her words cut deep, because part of me still believed her. Then she stood, walked to a shredder, and fed my notes into it. I lunged, but she held up a hand. "Don't. You're done. Turn in your gear. You're fired." Fired. After 20 years. I laughed, bitter, and said, "You can't bury this. I know what you're doing." She smirked, cold as ever. "What you know doesn't matter. No one will listen to a washed-up grunt." She handed me a non-disclosure agreement, thick as a book, and said, "Sign it or you'll regret it." I tore it in half, walked out, my head buzzing. I'd burned my bridge, and it felt like jumping off a cliff. The fallout was immediate. My Apex phone went dead, cut off. My access card didn't work. I went home to my apartment, found the locks changed. A note taped to the door. "Vacate by morning." No explanation. I grabbed what I could, clothes, my backup Glock, some cash, and checked into a cheap motel. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "Keep quiet or you're next." I stared at it, my hands cold. Was it Claire? Victor? Someone else? I called Pete, The guard who'd warned me not to stir shit up. He didn't answer. I tried Sam from the LA job. Voicemail. No one was loyal, not to me. I was a ghost now, cut off from the only life I knew. I thought about Elena, my sister, the only person I had left. I dialed her number, but it went straight to voicemail. Elena, it's Jack. I'm in trouble. I need you. I hung up, feeling like a coward for dragging her in. By dawn, I was on a bus to nowhere, my bag at my feet, checking over my shoulder. Apex wasn't just a job, it was a machine, and I'd pissed it off. I kept seeing Mike's face, his blood on my hands. I tried to do right, but all I'd done was paint a target on my back. I wasn't safe, and I didn't know if I ever would be again. The bus rumbled on, and I clutched my Glock under my jacket, knowing it wouldn't be enough. I was on the run, my life stripped to a duffel bag and a Glock, bouncing between motels and nowhere towns. I'd been a bodyguard for 20 years, always the one protecting, but now I was the hunted. The bus dropped me in some dusty Georgia town, and I holed up in a motel with peeling wallpaper and a flickering neon sign. My head was a war zone, Mike's blood, Claire's threats, that text. Keep quiet or you're next. I couldn't sleep, kept my gun on the nightstand, checking the window every hour. I knew Apex was dirty, but knowing and proving it were different. I needed evidence, something solid to expose them, or I'd just be a crazy ex-guard with a story no one would buy. I remembered a guy, Ray, the vet from years back who'd warned me about the machine. He'd quit Apex after a bad job, moved off the grid. If anyone had dirt, it was him. I tracked an old number, left a voicemail. Ray, it's Jack Ramsey. I'm out. Need to talk. Hours later, my burner phone buzzed. Ray's voice was gravelly, cautious. Meet me in Savannah. Midnight. Pier 13. Come alone. I didn't trust it, but I had no options. I caught a late bus, my Glock tucked under my jacket, my eyes scanning every passenger for a threat. Savannah was humid, the air thick with salt and secrets. Pier 13 was a dark stretch of docks, crates stacked like walls. Ray was there, older, grayer, a cigarette glowing in his hand. He didn't smile. You fucked up, Jack. Apex doesn't let loose ends walk. I told him everything, Mike's death, Victor's deals, Claire's cover-ups. He nodded like it wasn't news. Then he handed me a USB drive. Client logs, payments, names. I copied it before I left. It's enough to burn them. I stared at it, my hands shaking. This was it. Proof Apex was laundering money, running dirty jobs, maybe worse. But Ray grabbed my arm. They'll kill you for this. You sure? I wasn't, but I nodded. As we talked, headlights cut through the dark. A black SUV, just like the one in Atlanta. Ray cursed, dropped his cigarette. Go! He hissed. I bolted, the USB in my pocket, weaving through crates as footsteps pounded behind me. A gunshot cracked, and I ducked, my heart in my throat. I didn't look back, didn't know if Ray made it. I ran until my lungs burned, hid in an alley, my pulse hammering. The USB felt like a bomb in my hand. I'd wanted clarity, and I got it under fire. Apex wasn't just corrupt. They were a machine that crushed anyone who stepped out of line. I was a dead man walking, but I had their secrets now. I just had to figure out how to use them without getting buried. I slipped into the shadows, my breath ragged, knowing I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I clutched that USB like it was my lifeline, hiding in a Savannah dive bar, the kind of place where no one asks questions. I was 48, a fugitive from my own life, my years as a bodyguard now a chain around my neck. The bar smelled of stale beer and regret, a fitting backdrop for what I was about to do. I'd decided in that alley, heart pounding, that I couldn't just run. I had to fight back, not with guns, but with the truth. The USB held Apex's secrets, client logs, dirty payments, proof they'd let Mike die to cover their tracks. I needed to get it to someone who'd listen, but not cops or reporters. Apex had reach, they'd squash anything public. I needed someone inside, someone with a conscience. I thought of Elena. My sister was a nurse, worked in a hospital in Raleigh, far enough from Apex's grip. She'd know someone, maybe a lawyer, a friend, who could handle this without it splashing across headlines. I hadn't spoken to her in years, not since I chose Apex over family, but she was my only shot. I bought a new burner phone, sat in a booth, and dialed her number. This time, she picked up. Jack? Her voice was sharp, wary. What do you want? I swallowed hard, said. I'm in trouble, Elena. I need help. Not for me, for something bigger. I told her about Mike Apex, the USB, keeping it vague but urgent. She was quiet, then said, You're an idiot, Jack. But send it to me. I know someone. Relief hit me like a wave, but her next words stung. Don't expect me to forgive you. I mailed the USB that night, wrapped in a padded envelope, addressed to Elena's hospital. No return address, no note, just a post-it with, Trust him, for her lawyer friend. I dropped it in a mailbox outside a gas station, my hands shaking, knowing this was my one play. If it failed, I was done. I couldn't go back to my old life, apartment gone, job gone, Apex hunting me. I saw Mike's face every time I closed my eyes, his blood on my hands. I'd failed him, but maybe this could make it right, even a little. I caught a bus to another nowhere town, my Glock in my waistband, checking every shadow. I didn't know if Elena would come through, if her lawyer could do anything, or if Apex would find me first. All I knew was I'd taken a stand, and it felt like signing my own death warrant. I kept moving, no plan, just instinct. Every creak in a motel room, every car slowing down, made my heart race. I was alone, no allies, no safety net. The USB was out of my hands, but the weight of what I'd done wasn't. I'd betrayed Apex, and they didn't forgive. I sat in a diner at dawn, staring at my coffee, wondering if I'd ever see Elena again, if I'd live long enough to know if I'd made a difference. I'd rolled the dice, and now I was waiting for them to fall.